bad word of mouth, evil word of mouth that is destroying the film industry. Which is a bit odd because just a few weeks ago I talked about good word of mouth and how it helped lead to films like Rabbi Leaky Barfi doing better and better in theaters as people told each other about it and they spread in ways besides the standard promotion channels. However, what I'm noticing this week is that there is a different kind of box office going on, and what seems to be happening is nobody is seeing anything, which is bad. This week there's a wide variety of films available. You've got your big action movie Badshah, you've got your more sort of feminist intellectual film Simran, you've got a whole array of non-Hindi films out there, and none of them are getting any box office at all. I even compared it with last year. Last year at this time we had Pink in its like third or fourth week, and we had Barbar Deco just opening. Both of them did much better than the films are doing right now. And that's Pink, which is a good movie, but in a late week, and Barbar Deco, which was a bad movie, but in an early week. And they're both doing worse than films in those same situations are right now. Arjun Reddy even, which was that sort of surprise sleeper hit, is now doing terribly. So what's going on? As I started to think about this more, I started to think about the reasons people might decide or not decide to see a film. And as I see it, there's three main ways people will decide to see a movie. Three main ways that have been true for decades, as long as films have been around. The first way is just to make a decision for yourself. You see the poster, you see a bit of the trailer, you hear a little bit of the song, you know what you like the star, and you decide, okay, I'm going to check out this film, see if I like it. The second way would be if a friend recommends it to you, says, I know you well, I know what you like, you know you can trust me, and this is a movie I think you'll like. Now, in both of those cases, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to like the film. If you decide to see a film based on the poster and the trailers and you hate it, well, your reaction's going to be, whoops, I made a mistake, that's on me, I picked a bad movie. Or if you like it, your reaction is going to be, yay me, I made a good choice. If a friend recommends a film to you and you like it, you'll turn around and say, thank you friend, let me recommend something in turn, and if you recommend something back to me again, I'll definitely check it out. If you don't like it, you probably won't say anything because you're polite. You'll just keep it quietly to yourself, and you won't trust this friend's judgment as much in terms of what you might like. And then there's the reviewers. Now, the key thing with reading a movie review is first, it has to be an actual full movie review, not just 2 paragraphs, not just a plot summary, and it has to be from a reviewer you know and trust. And this is what it used to be like. You'd have the reviewer in your local newspaper, you read his reviews every week, you knew exactly what his taste was, what his writing style was, and you could have a good sense of what would be a good movie or a bad movie for you. My favorite reviewer is someone who has completely opposite taste from me. So if he says, I hated the movie or I loved the movie, I ignore that part of the review. What I focus on is what he says specifically about the film. If he says, this is a big dumb action comedy, I think, great, I love big dumb action comedies, and I trust your judgment to describe it well, so I'm going to see that movie. So there's still a bit of my own judgment going on here. I'm never going to just blindly look at the stars and the recommendations. And again, this is the way people have been deciding what films to see for ages. Not necessarily all 3 of them, that's too much for any one person to do, but either you would make the decision based on a poster or something like that, or because a friend recommended it to you, or because you like reading the movie reviews and something the reviewer said intrigued you. Now, what's the sort of evil twin version of these 3 options that we're seeing today? The first would be deciding whether or not to see a film not based on something like the poster or the trailer, but based on one small thing you might have heard about the movie. For instance, what if you hear that a film has premarital sex, and you think, ooh, I don't like premarital sex, I'm not going to watch this movie. Well, Aradhana has premarital sex, and Neil and Nikki has premarital sex. These are 2 very different films, and all you need to do is look at a poster or see who the cast is to understand how different they are and get a sense of if you would enjoy them or not. The mere fact that they have premarital sex doesn't actually tell you anything about the movie. And it seems like more and more people are making decisions based on that, some random element of the film they heard somewhere without doing any more exploration. The second would be the bad version of word of mouth. So it's one thing if somebody comes to you and says, I'm your friend, I've known you for 10 years, I know what you like, I know what you don't like, you will like this movie. It's something completely different if you're part of a WhatsApp group of, say, 50 people, including a bunch of people you've never even met, and one of them sends out a one-word review. Bad. Well, how do you know that what they think is bad is what you think is bad? They don't know you at all, you don't know them at all. How can you really trust that their judgment is a good judgment for you? And to expand this, what if you're the person sending out that review? Now, say you see a movie on Friday night and you actually like it. Are you necessarily going to send out that good review to a massive number of strangers? Maybe not, because if you send out a good review, and out of those 50 people, everybody sees the movie and one of them hates it, that one person is going to be really mad at you because they wasted their time and their money seeing a movie you recommended. So probably best not to say anything at all. Conversely, if it's a bad movie and you're honestly not sure if it's a universally bad movie or just a movie you did particularly like, well, better to err on the side of recommending against it. Again, just in case somebody sees the movie and then comes back to you later and says, "Why didn't you warn me? I hated this film." And this is just human nature. This isn't anything evil or wrong or bad. We always err on the side of warning people away from things rather than warning people to things. I mean, you can see that in Yelp. If there's one Yelp review of any business, it's probably going to be a bad review because people go out of their way to put up bad reviews, not good reviews. The problem is when you rely on this alone. So you have to sort of assume that this sort of mass review is going to err on the side of negative. And the positive reviews aren't necessarily going to be getting out there. So maybe if you get a bad review of a film from a total stranger that was forwarded along in this way, maybe that doesn't mean you just write the film off. Maybe you take a second to look at the poster, look at the trailer, try to determine if, maybe this is a film I would enjoy even if this person didn't. And then there's the third bad option, the bad professional reviewers. There's a couple of different ways this works. First, there's just plain bad reviews. A real, true film review doesn't give away the plot and doesn't just say, "I liked it, I didn't like it." It gives you a sense of the flavor of the film. Because not everybody has the same taste, and you need to know what sort of a film it is so that you can determine for yourself if this film will be to your taste or not. So a good review is maybe 5 paragraphs long at least, talks about the themes of the movie, the genre of the film, the look of the film, really gives you a flavor for what it is. And then at the end, sure, the reviewer says, "I liked it, I didn't like it," but that's not the entire review. There's a lot more to it. That's just looking at an individual review. The real problem is when people start looking at review collectives, because that's basically useless. If you say 70% of reviewers liked this movie, what does that tell you about whether you will like this movie? You haven't read their reviews, you don't know if you agree with them, you don't even know if they're good reviewers or bad reviewers. You need to actually dig in a little more before you make your decision. Yes, there's some value to that 70% of reviewers hated it. That means it's a little bit of an offbeat film. I'm probably not going to bring 20 people with me to go see it, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to see it at all. It means I'm still going to read one of those 30% that liked it and see if maybe I would agree with them more than the 70% who hated it. And that's what we're seeing more and more. You see these Twitter retweets where it's really just headlines or star counts, and there's no actual content to it, so you don't really get a sense of what people are saying about the movie and what the movie actually is. So what's the downside to this? The downside to all of these new forces that are forcing people away from watching movies, that are erring on the side of saying, "Nope, it's terrible." Well, there's a couple of downsides. The first is no one's seeing movies, and movies are wonderful things. It's an enjoyable experience. You should go out, you should try them. You're probably going to find something you like if you just give it a shot. And it's too bad that people are missing out on that. But then the second problem is what's happening to the movies themselves. The thing is, people have to be allowed to fail. You can't make a perfect movie every time. Sometimes you can. Let's look at Bahubali. So that was a perfect movie, essentially. That was the one movie that all reviewers agreed were good, all the random text messages, WhatsApp groups agreed were good, all the posters and everything told you it was a good movie. So great, people went to see that movie. But where did it come from? Well, it came from some not as good films. Billa, for instance, terrible movie. But it gave Prabhas and Anushka a chance to work together, a chance to get comfortable with each other, a chance for people to see their chemistry. They were cast again in Mirchi, which was a much better film. And then finally in Bahubali. Or look at Chhatrapati, which is actually a good movie. But the CGI isn't quite to the place it was in Bahubali. The acting, the script, all of that isn't quite there. But it gave Rajamouli a chance to try things out. He was able to work with Prabhas, he was able to do some CGI experiments, he was able to experiment with the mother-son plotline that he ended up using in Bahubali. And all of these things are what led to the perfect movie. Perfect doesn't exist in a vacuum. People have to be allowed to fail before they can get to perfect. Now, I'm not saying Indian movies can't do better. Obviously they can. And their promotion campaigns should be better. They should be less, I don't know, all-inclusive and all-invasive, so that you can actually sit down and just watch a trailer and base a decision on that. And Indian film reviewers really need to get better. There's a lot of flaws in the system. But ultimately what it gets down to for me is people need to still be willing to take a chance and to give films a chance. Because they can bring you a lot of joy if you let them, even if it's not the perfect movie that everybody will love. Anyway, that's what I've been thinking. You can agree with me, you can disagree with me. Hop on over to my blog, Don't Call It Bollywood, and leave me a comment if you like. There's a link right below the video. Thanks. Bye.